Hey guys, how are you? My name is Tabor, and I thought I could try and put together this short video diary style um, walkthrough together based on this work in progress landscape shader I have inside of Unreal Engine. Um, I'd like to go about and explain my process on this landscape shader and what it's doing. And I hope I can shed some light on a few things and what my goals are. Um, Normally, what people do with landscapes in Unreal is either they sculpt the geometry or they import the height data, whether it's something from a Terrain DCC like Gaia, World Machine, or even LiDAR information, like in the case of, let's say, Arc Raiders, the game. In my case, I made this. Um, I used Gaia to put together a example piece of terrain, just a ravine in the center with some surrounding mountains and a 4K style height EXR and base color, which I've brought into Unreal, just those three textures. And in the meantime, um, what I've done is I've tried to orchestrate layers based on not just the height, um, sorry, the base color from Gaia, but have overlaying elements such as like cliffs and let's say valleys and sloping grass areas based on the height EXR itself. And these are being read procedurally through um, this method, which involves analyzing terrain and using the height and slope information directly from the landscape's height texture. But instead of simply thresholding height, which creates ugly hard lines, we look at the shape of the terrain around each pixel. You can see that if I, let's say, switch this from, let's say, use material attributes, and I move it to emissive color, switch it to unlit, and apply, you'll find an RGB mask with all the peaks being in the R channel, valleys, and G. And I have this, let's say, slope information in my B channel. And each of these are driving, for the moment anyway, Megascan materials that are being texture bombed across the surface. I can then dial in the UV information for those materials, and just play with their look until they kind of match the underlying Gaia texture. So I don't just have the Gaia base color, which on its own can look pretty like let's say pixelated or low res. But it has a nice color at the same time. I'm blending those colors in with more accurate data on top, higher resolution anyway. And all this is being driven in a screen space style. So I'm not actually painting this. You see if I fly close or go further away, the information will change based off of the screen space data that's being held through the camera. And the shader works by sampling the high texture in a 3x3 neighborhood. So for starters, I've coded in what this effect is and how it works here inside of a custom HLSL node, and with my inputs being things such as like valley gain or height scale, how much slope there is, what the bias is for the peaks. I also have things like vertex normal world space coordinates, my landscape coordinate, UV data, my height texture, of course, being an EXR. And all this together, it samples the height texture around each pixel, and we call these taps. So think of taps as taking measurements around the current point on the terrain. And then from these 9 samples, we compute a local mean. So basically a smooth version of the landscape right under that fragment. And we also compute a MAD, the mean absolute deviation. So MAD tells us how much variation exists in the surrounding terrain. So we're not just reacting to global height, but to local structure. And that's important because it's what allows us to detect peaks versus valleys, regardless of where they occur on the map. Once we know the mean height and how much variation exists, we take the center sample and compare it to that mean. If the point is higher than its surroundings, it contributes to the peak mask. And if it's lower, it contributes to the valley mask. The transition into these masks is smooth using a Quintic 5-term smoother step curve. So instead of stepping instantly from 0 to 1, the mask eases between values, giving very soft and organic transitions. We also expose controls like bias, gain, and gamma, like the ones I just showed. So the artist can push masks tighter or soften them depending on how much material blending they need. Next, we compute a slope mask. So the shader measures slope 2 different ways depending on distance. Up close, where we want maximum fidelity, we would use the world space normal. At distance, where geometry gets very dense, like you see here, the normal sampling becomes unstable. So we switched over to a technique called screen space derivatives, or DDX and DDY. And these are super helpful. They analyze how quickly height changes across pixels. This hybrid approach ensures that slope visuals stay crisp nearby, but stable and flicker-free in the distance. Slope acts as a suppressor. Steep areas can automatically remove snow, soil, moss, or whatever materials you want to avoid appearing on cliffs. And this technique is valuable for vista-style terrain, of course, because terrain blending traditionally breaks down when the camera changes distance. Height-based masks often look acceptable up close, but collapse into these pretty ugly hard lines or disappear entirely as the bitmaps kick in. So in this way, by using both texel-based taps and screen space derivatives, the shader remains stable regardless of distance, resolution, or texture mid-level. And it doesn't need baked curvature maps or extra texture data. We only need our height EXR, and the mask is generated procedurally in runtime from the actual terrain topology. So all in said, when it's all good, I can just import the new height EXR, build a terrain, slap on a material, and if I have, let's say, a Gaia base color texture go with it, these blendings can occur pretty rapidly, and I don't have to worry too much about painting this landscape data in the background, let's say. In the foreground, of course, this is still something I'm working on, and I will have to come at it in a more traditional way. I think if you get too close to these effects, the effect is too obvious, of course. So we're going to kind of run into too many problems in real time. But for the time being, I think this could work pretty well if it's something far away from the camera. And let me switch this back to default lit. I'll switch it to use material attributes, press apply. So you'll see here we have our rocks, our grass, our all of our mountains looking pretty snazzy. So yeah, that is something I've been working on, and when this is done, I'd like to try and upload an example to see if anyone can take something away from it. If so, great. If you want to tell me my coding sucks, please feel free. I'm all ears, and I'm happy to learn. So thank you so much for watching, and hope to keep you posted soon. Bye.